Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Web3 Talks series. My name is Ornella Hernandez, and today I'm sitting with Pierre Samaties from Roland Berger, which is a management consultant, and Pierre is a partner at the firm. How are you?
Very good, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. I know that Roland Berger is a global management consultancy, but it has a lot of initiatives within the Web3 space, so I wanted to get into that today.
Yeah.
But first, let's start off with some background from yourself and how you found yourself interested in blockchain Web3. Was there maybe a moment or a specific memory that you can recall when you said, I need to be in this space?
Well, so I always had a passion for technology. So I actually started my career as a software developer and then moved on and left the software side on the side. Went into strategy consulting and so on. But then I used to work in the energy industry for a very long time.
Okay.
And the energy industry, in particular around 2013, had a bit of an identity crisis in the sense that everyone was looking for, okay, how's the future of the industry going to look like? So we went out and set up hubs in Silicon Valley, in Dubai, and so on to work around themes that would make the future of energy. And one of the themes there was machine-to-machine economy. So the core belief that there will be a lot of interaction between devices and so on. And then naturally, one of the main topics that came out of that was blockchain relatively early. I have to admit, it took me a while to really grasp and understand really understand fully the impact of the technology.
Right.
But then relatively quickly, and that was like mid of 2014 when it clicked, like I fell in love with the technology, went down the rabbit hole, and then it became my passion.
Were you an investor at the time as well?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What was your first investment, do you remember?
Bitcoin.
Yeah. And so tell me more about Roland Berger and its transition into the space, because you are also heading the digital assets department.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically in 2021, we got more and more requests from our traditional client base, which is, sovereign wealth funds, big institution blue chip companies, but also small, medium enterprises around the digital asset space. And it all started with actually one project where one of our main clients called us and said, do you guys have anyone that knows about Bitcoin? Right, and about Bitcoin and energy, and that was basically my cue, so to say.
Okay, you were the guy for the job.
Exactly. And that basically started us supporting a sovereign fund on setting up the Bitcoin mining strategy and significant operations here in the Middle East. And at the same time, we had more and more requests from the financial services sector for digital asset strategies for banks, digital identity projects for utilities, and so on. So at one point in time, the momentum was big enough for us to say, this is a topic that's going to affect all of our clients, no matter what sector it is. And hence we decided to basically set up a global team for that, which is now headquartered in Dubai.
Okay,
Yeah.
so talk to me a little bit more about that strategy then when it comes to working with clients, choosing clients, and maybe what their most prevalent concerns are when it comes to getting into the space.
Yeah. It always starts on our end with education. So we spend a lot of time on board education and really making sure that all of the boards really, get rid of these statements that they might be used from, let's say, mainstream media, like crypto is only for criminals. You can't do proper KYC, AML on it.
Okay,
and so on,
scams,
right?
frauds.
Exactly. So the main concern, obviously, for every institution is that KYC, AML part. Like, will I be able, because all of them are audited companies, right? Will I be able to demonstrate to my auditor that if I'm dealing in a trustless environment, that I at least know where funds are coming from, and that if I need to show it, also know who I'm interacting with. Yeah. So that's a key concern. The second key part is obviously the volatility side of things.
In the market?
In the market, yeah. Which also is a bit of the reason, I think, why the institutional market will probably more go into the direction of tokenization of real-world assets and stable coins and DeFi lending on institutional grade.
Okay, because it's less volatile.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. And so let's look at some specific projects and companies that you're working with, especially in the Middle East and in the UAE. I know you have partnerships with the Crypto Oasis team who founded the Green Block, and Roland Berger is on the steering committee, which recently launched the Green Block. Could you go into that a little bit more and what the mission is there?
Yeah, so the Green Block is actually a fantastic initiative that tries to bring together Web3, AI, and sustainability. Because the core belief on basically creating this platform is that if you look at the ESG KPIs that usually every company is using to create their sustainability strategy, 90% of these KPIs can be supercharged with the technology at hand. So with AI and blockchain.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the link there between blockchain, AI, and sustainability? What's the thread that unites them all? Data
is the thread, right? So we have a lot of issues in the sustainability market in terms of double counting, in terms of greenwashing, right? So that's one element where obviously blockchain is immutable, recording everything. But then also if you combine AI with it, then you can use image recognition and sensory data to again validate and predict certain elements on that part as well. But I think the main element for me as well is, and that is kind of a narrative we're also trying to get more out into the public, is that digital assets per se, and Bitcoin as the poster boy still of the industry in particular, are an ESG compliant asset. And
how so?
From various angles. One, and that's usually when people talk about sustainability, they always think about energy consumption first.
Right.
Let's tackle
the misconception is that mining is too energy consuming.
Well, I mean, that debate is something I think you probably would never solve, because if you don't see value in Bitcoin and the thing that Bitcoin brings to the world, every kilowatt hour of energy will be wasted from your point of view, right? So I think this is more of a discussion that probably will not be solved unless people would really fully understand the value that something like Bitcoin brings to society.
We need a whole other show dedicated to that.
That needs an entire 3-hour episode, I guess.
Okay.
But to keep it short, so on the energy side of things, the energy that's used for Bitcoin mining today already is in the range of 60 to 65% CO2 neutral.
Okay.
Right? So
which is a lot.
It's a lot. Just for comparison, I mean, there are very few countries in the world that have 65% of CO2-free energy in their energy mix. Yeah? Why is that? Because obviously Bitcoin miners, 80% of your costs are energy cost, of your OPEX cost. You try to get the cheapest cost possible, and the cheapest cost tend to be renewable energy.
Right.
Second part is Bitcoin miners are forming a symbiosis with utilities at the moment because they help to stabilize the grid. Because you are able to ramp up and down Bitcoin miners in a matter of minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. So if the grid operator calls you and says, I need bandwidth now, shut down, they will shut down. If they call you, in particular in the Middle East, where we have a funny load profile, so to say, in the summer, and I actually still consider it summer, given it's so hot outside,
because of the heat,
right?
Correct.
We're using peak capacity of our energy production because we're all running the ACs. But in the winter, we use 40% less of the consumption. So there's a lot of stranded assets, basically, that where the energy is not used. And Bitcoin miners come in to take up this energy. Yeah.
Okay.
And with that, making the assets more attractive, because if you're an asset owner, if you build renewable power assets, you want as much running hours as possible. Yeah. So that's kind of the energy angle to it. But I think the main angle that's absolutely overlooked or not really talked about is the entire social angle of it. Bitcoin is the most inclusive monetary asset we have in the world. Everyone can participate. And that for me is a 10 out of 10 in the ESG score.
Is that, so when you say inclusive, does that mean because everyone can participate in the market?
It's not discriminatory,
okay.
Right?
So what are some of the best use cases you envision for Bitcoin in addition to being a store of money?
Well, I think there's still a debate on can it really be a frequent medium of exchange, right? Obviously there's the Lightning Network that that might help us there, but there's also lately some controversy around it. So we need to see how that plays out, but already the store of value, I think, is the biggest gift I think the technology can bring, right? Then there are some other interesting developments on, programmability on top of Bitcoin as well, but I think if we just have the store of value argument, that's already enough, and we leave the rest to other blockchains.
What else can the blockchain itself offer in terms of bettering the environment and helping us to maybe tackle climate change? Like, are there other examples that you've seen or that companies that you work with that are also doing this well, in your opinion?
Yeah, there's one, I think, example I want to mention, which is relatively recent. So if you look at, all the environmental concerns, then one real concern that you can see with your own eye basically is waste, right?
Okay.
It's about recycling.
So waste management.
Waste management,
and
recycling.
Okay.
We definitely have a plastic problem in the world, right? And
too much plastic.
Too much plastic, not recycled enough, too many landfills, things are thrown around everywhere, right?
Okay, and so how can the blockchain aid that problem?
There's an absence of an incentive system, right? And what we launched 4 months ago in Paris at the INC meeting is a voluntary recycling credit standard. To keep it very simple, you are a recycling company, you recycle a ton of PET, plastic, you get issued 1 recycling credit on chain. And we're doing this together with the folks from Internet Computer, from Dfinity. And everything is hashed on chain, even the document that basically, or the image that shows that you have actually recycled that PET.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm Coca-Cola, or for any producer. And let's say I sold 100 tons of PET into the market, but I was only able to retract 80 tons this year. So in theory, I have a gap of 20 that I want to recover to say I fully offset my recycling activities.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to the platform, I'm going to buy the offset in voluntary recycling credits from you for the 20 tons. And that's a system that's basically incentivizing the recycling activities and documenting everything on chain, so you can't tamper with it.
And what do you think is the main motive behind a company like Coca-Cola, if it were to do this, besides trying to participate in bettering the environment? Is there some other, like, maybe more business motive there?
Well, I think this motive of bettering the environment, and we've seen that on the carbon side of things, can relatively quickly turn into a commercial pressure, right? Because your consumers tend to demand it from you, right? And my belief is that actually on the recycling sector, the demand will even be stronger because it's not as abstract, right? You can see it, right? There's a waste problem. I want to help to basically solve this.
Right.
So there's bottom-up pressure, right? But also, I'm pretty sure there's going to be more and more top-down pressure from governments as well. In some countries, we already have a scheme called extended producer liability, where actually the producers, so bottling companies, are forced to recycle whatever they put into the markets.
Right, and then if we talk about the UAE, which is going to host the UN Climate Summit, COP28, later this year, it sometimes makes you question its motives also because it is a major oil and gas producer. So what do you think is the significance there between a country like the UAE hosting a major climate summit?
I think it perfectly fits to the story of the UAE, which has since years showcased that they adopted the latest technology and really driving the latest technology to get away from oil, right? And I think, I'm here since 2014, and already what happened since 2014 is incredible if you look at the energy mix and everything else that has been done. So I think that it's a very well chosen host.
Is there any other trends or industries that you think blockchain can really revolutionize, in addition to sustainability?
Yeah, 100%. So, in particular, this entire AI revolution, right? So, people have been talking about AI for ages, and then, everyone forgot about it, and then boom, it hit the consumer market. Right now, at your fingertips, you can have actually superpowers.
It's the latest buzzword as well.
Exactly, and it kind of buried a bit the blockchain hype. But if you think this through the end, then obviously AI is feeding on data, and AI is by nature, a very centralizing technology, right? Because the best AI has a lot of data to feed on. It's the biggest model, and so on. And I think we need blockchain as the decentral counterpart to that, because you need a truth machine for AI to verify that the data that's generated is actually valid. It comes from valid sources. Already today, we have an issue with a lot of deep fakes. Right?
Yes.
Blockchain would verify that, if it's real or not. And second is, we also need to prevent that we're being ripped off of our data, right?
So when you say ripped off, what do you mean exactly?
Your data is just taking and the AI is just feeding on it and taking it, right?
Okay.
And I think this is where the entire Web3 narrative comes into play, where you read, write, and own your own data. And protocols like Ocean Protocol, these guys have something called compute to data, which allows me, if I'm an AI, to access your data in your wallet with a compute to data algorithm, which means I don't see the clear data that you have, but I run an algorithm over it and I get my result and you get paid for it.
Okay,
right?
So there's a reward system there.
There's a reward system, and at the same time, for the AI, it's also like a win-win situation, because I know I've accessed your wallet, which means it's verified data.
Okay, so it also has a security aspect as well.
Security aspect, verification aspect.
Okay.
I think that's why this narrative of blockchain and AI is really strong in my point of view.
Yeah, no, it's very intertwined. But I think a lot of people still have some misconceptions and fear behind AI. The other day I interviewed a humanoid, a robot.
Oh, really?
Basically.
How did that go?
It was so weird talking to a robot, and it was answering me very eloquently in a way, but it was so strange because the mouth wasn't moving properly. So I'm like, oh my God, is this our future? Like, is this what we have to expect from AI? Robots helping us, everything being automated. Like, do you have any other fears as well?
Well, I mean, I tend to agree with like Elon's warning that he already put out like 10 years ago, right? Or I don't know, 6-7 years ago, that if we don't control AI, then it might go places where we don't want it to go, right?
Yeah.
And again, this is where I think blockchain is the truth machine to AI, ensuring that it can only work with verified data and can only work with kind of with our rule set, so to say. Yeah. But yeah, ultimately, I think the entire AI journey is going to be a very interesting one to observe. I mean, there's always this fear of people losing their jobs in masses, right?
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, me neither. I don't think it's going to replace jobs necessarily, but it might replace humans who aren't upskilled into using AI tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I agree with you.
Yeah. All right.
Exactly.
Okay. And then I did want to ask, since in all your experience working in the consulting firm, in blockchain, in AI, in tech, what has been the most rewarding part of it, and maybe the most challenging part of your career?
Let me start with the most challenging part on the blockchain space, right? I think it's still a lot about education, and it's still around getting people to embrace this idea of self-sovereignty, because I mean, that's ultimately the core ethos of blockchain and Web3, right? And it's about understanding that, hey, there's a tool out there which brings all the power back into my hands. And the challenging part is, I think, realizing that not everyone is prepared to do that, right? Not everyone is prepared to embrace that. And so you have to deal with a lot of misconceptions sometimes around the space and so on. And obviously, the more, pumps and dumps we have, it doesn't really help the industry, right?
No.
So, but on the other side, right, the most rewarding part of that is really, the moment when you realize, okay, clients really fully understood the impact for their business, or even better on a private scale, like people understand that, hey, crypto is actually something that can help me in situations where nothing else can help me, when, I don't have access to my bank account anymore, or God knows for what reason, right? And we've seen many examples now in the past where crypto was the only vehicle people had to transfer wealth out of their country.
Right. All right. And then just lastly, what is the best way for our viewers to get in touch with you, to learn more about Roland Berger? You can let them know any social channels that you prefer. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a LinkedIn channel. Maybe you can put the link over here. Sure. And I'm on X as well with the same handle. So happy to get in touch with everyone. Okay, great. Yeah. And any final thoughts maybe on digital freedom, what that means to you? Well, digital freedom for me means really having the option to choose where I want to be self-sovereign, right? And I think that's a big word. And as mentioned, like, I would wish more people think about the concept of self-sovereignty and make a decision for themselves on how the technology can actually help them. All right. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Pierre. Thank you. Pleasure. And everyone else, please, at the end of this episode, make sure to check out other episodes of Web3 Talks. Until next time, my name is Ornella Hernandez.